Here is something from our friends at the Gartner Group that I borrowed for this. It's a little small, I guess, for you, but what this is their 2015 Magic Quadrant showing a BI vendor landscape. And they're comparing completeness of vision to ability to execute. And of course, the ones that rated high were really excited and happy, and they put it in all their marketing literature. And the ones that were rated lower found a different company to then rate them high. And so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they know what's right for you. I just thought this was kind of an interesting thing to put up here, because one of the things that's interesting to me about it is that they actually put these different companies all on the same grid, because they're actually pretty dissimilar, I think. You're really, it's like you're comparing motorcycles to semi-tractor trucks, or whatever they're called, in some cases. There's very disparate types of products that they've tried to get all into one grid, one report. But I think it has some information value. So what I did was I went and looked around. Well, does everyone agree with Gartner? And a few takeaways. You see how, I guess, Tableau they really like for its ability to execute. I mean, that's a huge gap there. And they like SAS for its completeness, clearly, and SAP for its completeness. And so now let's go just a little bit further, and here is some place called Ventana Research. And notice that now mine goes, let's see, Tableau is way over to the left, and Information Builders is off to the top right. So what does this mean? It means there's a lot of companies. There are a lot of companies that aren't in either one of these, by the way. It's a very confusing sort of a landscape. What you and your department or your whole company is trying to do is move beyond doing everything in Excel. And so let's talk about Excel for a moment. You can absolutely do better with Excel than what most people do. And you just heard some great techniques for how to do that. But the reality is that Excel is desktop software with a particular use case in mind, and I think it's overused. And I just want to see a show of hands, even for those of you that like Excel. How many, raise your hand if you think it's overused? Half and half. Okay, so now it's more than half. So I think I turn to Excel constantly for things. But would I then say that a company like, right now we're, MetLife Associates, should I think that MetLife should communicate throughout their ranks, data in Excel? Probably not as that way. So what I get to is that there's really the need for understanding your goals and trying to find the right technology. These are all valid goals, and you may not be able to meet all of them with a single product, right? So data integration is a huge challenge that we in the digital analytics field often face, because oftentimes the data is not all coming from one source, not all coming from one vendor, and it's not easy. And to manually integrate that is a big problem, because then the timeliness then is vastly is decreased, and data that's not timely is just less valuable. The very same data provided at the right moment, it can often be many times more valuable than that same data delivered at the end of the month, or however long it takes for it to be manually integrated. So before we get to the hands-on, to kind of close things out, I'll kind of mention for a moment about architecture. So if you go, let's say, using Tableau as an example, and you go to their website, they'll basically make it sound like if you have just their software, you can do all of that integration and cleansing and normalization of the data and bring it together and visualizing it and presenting it and publishing it, all with just that one product. But the reality is, if you're going to do this in a complex way, quite possibly you're going to need multiple products doing multiple things. You may need a layer of architecture that's doing data integration. And there are products that all they do is data integration. And they bring in data and they do that. You may need a data warehouse and not have it all coming together at Tableau or QuickSense or QuickView or whatever. And why? Because you find that you have run into limitations. And then for the presentation layer, you may find that it's great for all this to be visualized by Click or Tableau or that, but actually then communicating it throughout your organization, you need other technologies to help you with that. So that's where buying a single product and saying I'm done would be so nice and comfortable and let you just have an easy time of it. But the reality is that as you get more sophisticated, you need a multi-layer architecture oftentimes, where you have a layer that's just worrying about the data integration, and you have a layer that's the data warehouse layer, and you have a layer that is the analytical layer and the data visualization and the publishing and presentation layer. So there's a lot to now you're thinking, let me just go keep using Excel and email, right? Because this is a lot but it's all, I think, worthwhile as you kind of get further and further into it in terms of what you can achieve.